She's been so active in so many groups over the years. And to boot, Rekha Basu wrote this wonderful, almost full-page article about her. I have to tell you, if you haven't read it, there are copies of it over on the table that has some of Sherry's things on the table, along with some other interesting things about her life. I hope you'll stop by there after a while, and she'll be sitting there to visit with you too. So, well, I decided, it wasn't sort of an OMG moment to follow Rekha Basu's article, but, well, anyway, I went to interview Sherry, and it was really more fun than you can imagine, because Sherry is quick with answers, and she's got that droll humor to boot, so it was easy and fun. So, on we go. Sherry was a new Iowan in 1946. 1946, it was right after the end of World War II. More on that later. She was born and grew up in Philadelphia as an only child. And as she puts it, she was raised by a committee. She lost her mother very early and doesn't really remember how she looks, but there was a portrait of her which she would look at often as a child. So this committee raised her. Her father, her two unmarried aunts, and two uncles, one of whom did marry, but final decisions were made by the father. Her father was an MD, had his office in their home, and was also employed by the city to, quote, visit families with contagious diseases and then put up quarantine signs as needed, unquote. Her Quaker family goes back 10 generations, though they didn't come over on the same boat with William Penn, she assured me. As a child, Sherry walked to the Germantown Friends School until she graduated. She took Latin to help with her vocabulary, but then she said, well, I really liked shop. I foolishly asked her if she shopped at department stores, since shopping malls didn't exist then. She quickly corrected me. No, she said, I mean shop class. We made things. I still have one, a doorstop. It's over there by the door. So, first thing I did was go and find that, and it's Exhibit A tonight. It's strong and heavy enough to be a doorstop. It's very well made. It's probably over 80 years old now. I don't know if you can see it. It's a puppy or a dog. I think it might be a terrier. She painted the face. It's getting kind of faded now. And the toes also. And lots of attitude in this. And it's got movable parts. They squeak like us getting 80-year-olds. Oh my. I'll give it back to you, Sherry. Let's see. So if things had gone differently, Sherry might have become a prosperous master carpenter, but that was not to be. Her aunts promoted Swarthmore College, where she went for a year, but then transferred to and graduated from Bryn Mawr with a French major and a German minor. French, Sherry said, well enough to speak, and German well enough to read. After graduation, she worked at the then famous Curtis Publishing House, Saturday Evening Post, I think maybe many of you will remember, in a department that took readership surveys, tabulating which articles were liked best. It was a working place with a great atmosphere, she said, and she envisioned being promoted to manuscript reader, making decisions on what was printable and what would receive, excuse me, a rejection notice. But it was the early 1940s, in the middle of World War II, and she also volunteered at the Officers Club, where one day Lieutenant Larry Hutchison came in, noticed Sherry sitting at the piano, not playing, but singing in German, the famous German poem, Die Lorelei. Well, they dated, but then Larry was transferred to San Francisco. So there were many long-distance phone calls with many quarters. Once Larry ran out of quarters. I think there's nobody so young here that I'd have to explain what the quarters and phone booth are. Okay. Well, the little story that goes with that is that once Larry ran out of quarters and feeling really bad, but the operator must have been listening because she came on the line and assured him that he could keep on talking if he brought enough quarters the next day to the phone office, and she would keep good track of how many to bring. So they had a chance to keep talking. Sherry had relatives in San Francisco where he had been transferred, and she went to visit them, and Larry too. On one of the visits, she and Larry were married in Berkeley, California, and at the Quakers Friends meeting, with a simple wedding. Her uncle and his wife were her only relatives present. It was still wartime. After the war, in 1946, Larry came back to his job at the Des Moines Register, and that's how we got to have Sherry with us. Housing at that time was difficult to find, but an older reporter and his wife converted the upstairs of their home into an apartment for that nice young couple. Sherry cooked on a gasoline-type stove, like a camp stove, but not portable, she said. With the help of Larry's father, they found a sturdy house on the southwest side of Des Moines where they lived the rest of the time and raised their 2 sons. When Sherry first came to Des Moines, the first thing she joined was the League of Women Voters. At that time, they were lobbying the Iowa State Legislature for district reapportionment, which luckily passed and saved us here in Iowa from the scourge of gerrymandering. We really have to be thankful to the League and Sherry for that. Her first WILF meeting was during the Civil Rights time, and Julian Bond was the speaker. Lucy Krause was the president at that time, and Sherry joined then, but became more active during the Vietnam War protests. When I moved to Des Moines in 1969, during the Vietnam War, I joined the League of Women Voters, as I often would when I moved, and there met Sherry wearing her Another Mother for Peace medallion. That Another Mother for Peace medallion had the words, "War is not healthy for children and other living things," and we saw a lot of that at that time. And I had been looking around, didn't know many people at that time because I just moved, and did not like the Vietnam War at all, of course. And when she was wearing that medallion, that gave me a chance to visit with her and find out about WILF. And that's when I joined. She got me to join. And I think I was just one of many that Sherry got to join WILF. I don't know, is there anyone here tonight now that was joined as a result of her? Most of my contemporaries have passed away, so though they're not here anymore to tell about it. But she did do a good job of getting the membership. Sherry will tell you about some of her WILF doings in her speech, so I will just mention that her very fine activism with WILF includes heading up annually for many years, including this year, the Tax Day demonstrations on April 15th, going way back to when it was still March 15th. And also, she headed the Hiroshima-Nagasaki observances at the Japanese Bell on the state capitol grounds. I see many faces here of people that come every August, and it's a very special evening of reverence. For years, she submitted branch articles for our branch newsletter when we had a printed form. Those articles rarely needed to be edited. She also helped me set up local discussion groups for the Challenge Corporate Power, Assert People's Rights study when I was overwhelmed with requests from non-members who wanted to take the course. We also put together this booklet, Exhibit B. We put this together. It was during the time that WILF had the special privilege of having the triennial observance for our national WILF, and it's a history of our Des Moines branch from 1962, when we got started with Lucy Krause, one of the founders, to the time of that, when that conference was on in 2008. I don't know if one of these is back there, but I'll put this one back if you want to see it. In addition to WILF, she has served on American Friends Service Committee's Iowa Program Committee. She was a founding member of Friends Meeting here and has been the editor of their newsletter for decades. She helped found the local chapter of Amnesty International and has helped Iowa Peace Task Force with their campaign in the Des Moines schools. She has received other awards besides the one she'll be getting tonight. Most notably, the YWCA's Woman of Achievement Award in 1990. That's a really big deal. And in 2006, the Catholic Peace Ministry Bishop Dingman Award, another big deal. So with that, I made it quite short compared to all the information I got when I interviewed her. So now I'm going to be able to present her award, and I'm so privileged to be able to do this. Here you are, Sherry. The award has these words printed on it. Here are the words that are on your award, Sherry, for all the people to know and hear. May 13th, 2016, and it has the logo up at the top. Our logo has a picture of the woman symbol and doves flowing out from it. May 13th, 2016, today. Strong Feisty Woman Award presented to Sherry Hutchison, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Thanks you for your leadership, courage, and relentless advocacy for peace and justice. Your sharp wit and perseverance gives us strength to continue. Thank you, Sherry. From the Des Moines branch of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
Turn around. I'll hold it.
Thanks, it's nice to be here, and there have been plenty of chances I would not be here. I have some notes that are still at home reminding me of things I was going to say. I'm going to thank Maggie for what she said and what she didn't say. It's nice to be here and to be honored in this way by this local group, and thank you very much.